back to the Cricket Corner podcast as we preview the fourth and final test match between India and Australia, coming to you from the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. Well, what a great test series it has been, and it's sad to see that we are already previewing the fourth and the final test match. Australia come into the Ahmedabad test on the back of an excellent victory in Indore, beating India by 9 wickets in under 3 days and taking less than 7 sessions. Now, this is the reason why there's always a gap between the test ending podcast and the preview for the next test match podcast, because twice India and now Australia have completed the test match within 3 days. So there's always a gap between a couple of podcasts, but here we are. The series is currently 2-1 in India's favour, but the hosts need to win in Ahmedabad to join Australia to play in the World Test Championship final at the Oval later this year. So let's start with this preview of the fourth test match, shall we? We'll talk about both the sides, both the camps, news, team news, etc. But more importantly, we're going to talk about pitches, aren't we? Because that's been the major talking point ever since Australia came here and played in that very first test match in Nagpur, which now seems like ages ago. But well, it was just a couple of weeks ago now. But there we are, pitch talks as usual in this Cricket Corner podcast preview episodes. And here we are. So once again, the pitch has taken a center stage, because I think prior to the Indore test match, I think Rohit Sharma hinted that the Ahmedabad pitch could be a green pitch, which will aid the seamers, because that would help India for the World Championship final preparations. But following Australia's victory in Indore on a spinning track where Nathan Lyon picked up 11 wickets across 2 innings, 8 in the second innings, I think things might be a little different here and there, but we are not sure, because at the time of recording this podcast, the curators at the Narendra Modi Stadium have covered two wickets, so I think even they are not quite sure which wicket to choose. There have been some images of Steve Smith, Travis Head and the others looking at a wicket like they always do a couple of days before the test match. And judging by the pictures which have come on social media, it is kind of a green pitch, but not as green as you would see something in New Zealand or England. Like, there is a hint of grass, but it still looks kind of dry. So it might not be a turner like we had in Indore, which completely backfired India, but it looks like something that has something in it for the fast bowlers and not just something for the spinners, because the hint of grass, and if the grass holds on for, let's say, a session or two, it can really aid fast bowlers like Umesh Yadav or Mohammad Shami if he comes back, Siraj, Mitchell Stark, Cameron Green, and and those kind of players. So yeah, you never know what's going to happen, because once again, the pitch can be delusional and it could just start turning from, the very first day. But early signs suggest it is a little greener. But once again, I am no pitch expert, but seeing from the naked eyes on social media, I feel like there is a hint of grass, and you never know what's going to happen once the captains come out for the toss. Because if you win the toss, do you then go with the flow and opt to bowl first? That would aid you during the early stages of the test match, or do you then just bat first, pull out the first session out of the ad, just survive and then just start scoring runs? You never know what's going to happen, right? But yeah, the pitch looks promising, I would say, from naked eye, compared to what we had at Nagpur, New Delhi and Indore. But yeah, you never know what's going to happen with these kind of pitches, because India likes to play with cards close to the chest, and they will obviously want that home advantage to make sure that they qualify for the World Test Championship final and play Australia at Lords, because last time India qualified but they lost, but this time they have a real opportunity to go out there and win this tournament once and for all. So that's the pitch talks out of the way. Once again, the pitch quite unknown to the outsiders. Only the curators and the two sets of sides probably know the best how it's going to work out, and something Australia did quite well despite losing the toss. So once again, let's start with the Australian team as we look to address both sides ahead of the fourth test match here in Ahmedabad. Now, big news coming earlier this week was that Steve Smith is going to continue as the captain of the Australian Test team for the fourth and final Test match. It was, those of you who didn't know, Steve Smith was the Australian captain during the Indore Test match, which they won because Pat Cummins flew home to Australia to be with his mother, who is apparently suffering from breast cancer. I have an article opened from crickbus.com, and it says, as I quote, Steve Smith to continue as Australia captain for the Ahmedabad Test. Steve Smith will lead Australia in the fourth and final test against India in Ahmedabad, as Pat Cummins has opted to stay back in Australia for personal reasons being his ill mother. But there are now question marks over Cummins' availability for the one-day international series, which starts after the fourth and final test match. But you never know how the situation in the Cummins family is back then, because the fourth and final test match begins on the 9th, so a couple of days after this podcast. It ends on the 13th, but let's say once again it ends like 12th or 11th, and the one-day series starts on the 17th. So Cummins does have like a week, 10 days to assess the situation, but there's still uncertainty over that. So Steve Smith will continue to lead the Aussies in Ahmedabad. And for the first time, I feel like Australia might not be making any changes to their starting 11, because we saw from Nagpur to Delhi, there were wholesome changes, wholesale changes. From Delhi to Indore, there were wholesale changes. But I don't think you can expect that, because there hasn't been any injury news coming out of the Australian camp. There hasn't been anyone who has not been performing at the level expected of them. So I think Australia will continue with the same team. I think they're going to name the same team as they did in Indore, and I don't see any reasons for making that change. Now, just to remind the listeners and the viewers on YouTube that the Australian team for the third test in Indore was as follows: Usman Khawaja, Travis Head, Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith, then Peter Hanscom, the returning Cameron Green, Alex Carey, Nathan Lyon, Matthew Kuhneman, Mitchell Starc, and Todd Murphy. So I think Australia might just go with three spinners yet again, because Cameron Green is now able to bowl, which gives them that seaming option as well. But then if the pitch is aiding fast bowling, then would you get Scott Boland back into the team? You don't know, because I don't think so, because Matthew Kuhneman has picked up 5 wickets in the Indore Test match in the first innings. Todd Murphy has been excellent with the ball. He's been troubling the likes of Kohli all over the place. And you can obviously not drop Nathan Lyon. So I think regardless of the pitch and the conditions, Australia would be opting with the three spinners they have been playing in the New Delhi Test and in the Indore Test. And I think he'll be back. I think he'll be back in the sense the team will be remaining the same. So I think the Australian team for the third test match would be, as I mentioned before, Travis Head, Usman Khawaja, Marnus Labuschagne, Captain Steve Smith, Peter Hanscom, Cameron Green, Alex Carey, Nathan Lyon, Todd Murphy, Mitchell Stark, and Matthew Kuhneman. Surprisingly, it's the Indian camp which has couple of team news here and there, regardless, and not the Australians. Usually it's the other way around. It's the Australians who have a host of team news to discuss on these preview podcasts, and then which I really used to like. But now it's the Indian side which has a couple of interesting tidbits here and there regarding their team. Mostly the one news which caught my eye is concerning Mohammad Shami. So those of you who didn't know, Mohammad Shami was rested for the third test match, and Umesh Yadav came in his place and partnered Mohammad Siraj in the bowling unit. And Umesh Yadav was excellent in the first innings, taking up 3 crucial wickets with the ball reverse swinging, and he looked excellent. But yeah, Mohammad Shami looks like he could be in the starting 11 for the Ahmedabad test. I have an article opened right in front of me from the Times of India. It's a couple of days older now, but it says Mohammad Shami is set to return in playing 11 for next test. That means the Ahmedabad test. Ranked Turner unlikely for the final test. Now, the article says that Mohammad Shami was being rested for workload management during the Indore test match, which gave Umesh Yadav a run into the game. But there's something written here that Umesh Yadav, who played in the first 2 test matches and is also part of the ODI squad, was rested for the third game. In his place, Umesh Yadav was drafted as the second seamer in Mohammad Siraj. With Mohammad Siraj now playing 3 test matches and Umesh Yadav playing just 1, do you then put Umesh Yadav in the side, you keep him, and you just rest Mohammad Siraj instead of, completely dropping Umesh Yadav? Yeah, Umesh Yadav, because you want workload management to be on both sides equally, right? So yeah, probably I see India resting Mohammad Siraj and opting to go for Mohammad Shami and Umesh Yadav, because if you have seamers, why not just pick and choose, do workload management stuff, keep them fresh for the one-day series and for the IPL and for the games in later this year. I have an article open now from Times Now Sports, and it says rested for the third test match. India player set to come back in the playing 11 in Ahmedabad. I think by that they mean Mohammad Shami. Team India will make one change in their playing 11, and Mohammad Shami is likely to replace Mohammad Siraj. Yeah, there you go. That's what I was trying to say. Mohammad Siraj will be rested, just like Shami was rested for the Indore test match. So I think Umesh Yadav is looking really likely to keeping his place in the playing 11, and I feel like that serves him right. He has been really, really, really well coming with the old ball, trying to reverse swing it. He's bowling with his heart out, and I don't think he deserves to be dropped after what he did in Indore, particularly in that first innings, getting rid of the Australian tail pretty quickly. But it's interesting how the Times Now article clearly mentions that India will be making only one change, because once again Shubman Gill replaced KL Rahul for the third test match, and despite not scoring a lot of runs in his first ever test appearance in this series, I think Shubman Gill deserves a second chance. KL Rahul has got many chances. Why not give Shubman Gill chance as well? So I think that's not going to happen. They're not going to change that. There were talks on CricBuzz. I read that Akshar Patel is one of the players in question, because Akshar Patel gives you batting options right until number 9. So that's the reason why he's being picked in the team. But once again, he is not contributed with wickets. Like But like he's just had one wicket this whole series in these 3 test matches he's played, just picked up one wicket, but he's had more half centuries. But I don't think that's a cause for concern, because the likes of Ashwin and Jadeja have been so good that India barely need Akshar Patel to contribute with the ball as well. Yes, contribution is with the bat is more important, because India's middle order has been dicey this whole series, and getting some vital runs lower down the order has been the key to India's success in the first 2 test matches. It says here he has had more half centuries. There are 2 half centuries, 2 not outs in this series than he has wickets. He has just got one wicket. But then I don't think that matters a lot, because having a fifth bowling option is good enough. You are most likely not expected to pick wickets. You are just likely to keep one and dry legs the bowlers at the other end do their work when your genuine bowler rests or loosens up for his next spell. So I don't think that is a cause for concern for India anytime soon. Akshar Patel will be playing alongside Jadeja and Ashwin, and will be looking to contribute with his bat as much as he does with the ball. So yeah, that's the preview of both sides. We all know this is going to be an interesting test match, because not only are India and Australia close, yes, India are ahead in the test series, but then Australia have the momentum going into the Ahmedabad test match, and that is going to be really interesting how Australia come up and take this test match head on, or will they be on the back foot? I don't think they would. India would be awakened now, seeing how Australia just took advantage of the conditions more than they did, and this is going to be one of the most important test matches, not only for the context of the Border Gavaskar Trophy, but also in the context for the World Test Championship. As I mentioned before, Australia have already qualified, and India need a win to do the same. This is going to be an interesting test match in some other regards as well, because Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be in attendance at the Ahmedabad test, along with the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, and some close relationships between the two nations, and the test match is the festival of that relationship. Narendra Modi and Anthony Albanese will be there at the Narendra Modi Stadium for day one. So hoping that we have some good days play when the test match begins on Thursday. Once again, I'll be waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning to have a look at how the first session plays out between India and Australia. Let's see how the pitch turns out to be, and hoping it's yet another brilliant test match, which, let's be honest, doesn't end in 3 days, but that's how things work in India. So that's the final preview done. It's been an amazing series, and I'm looking forward to seeing this fourth and final test match as well. Thanks for tuning in. Please make sure you are subscribing to the YouTube channel, and you're giving me those amazing 5-star ratings on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Once again, as I mentioned, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this Ahmedabad test preview, and I'll see you guys pretty soon. Ciao for now.